All right. Well, Andrew, today is a really fun celebration. It's something that we haven't done before, and so I'm really excited about it. It's a topic that a lot of people has been asking us about. But before we get started, just for the purposes of the recording, my name is Lexi Hall. I'm a dietitian. I get to work with MaxLove Project, and I get to do it together with this guy, Andrew. He's our culinary medicine chef, and he wrote too many to count of the recipes in the cookbook that you can see on display there. And today we're having cookbook clubs. So whenever we do cookbook clubs, we do them online with the purpose of taking the recipes that we have and remixing them into something that you may have asked for, or just showing you how flexible the cookbook can be and how it can meet the needs of many people for different reasons. So we're taking 3 recipes out of the cookbook today, and we're actually making them plant-based because we have so many questions that are brought to us in a lot of different situations about, can a healthy diet be plant-based? Can a ketogenic diet be plant-based? Can we take some of these recipes and convert them over to being plant-based? And so this guy right here, Chef Andrew, is going to show you how to do that today. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to 2 locations from Dana Point, California, across the town. You're here in my outdoor kitchen. It's a beautiful sunny day now after the har burned off. And we're here and we're talking about demystifying all these diets and keto versus paleo and all these like terminology that sort of are really definitive in nature, and people like labels and they want to stick into the small box. But this way this kind of takes the mystery out of things, and we can turn these recipes, because of Fierce Food Kitchens, it is really animal protein forward. But there is ways, like Lexi was saying, in turning it into vegetable and legume based proteins, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do 3 different recipes today. We're going to do a breakfast protein smoothie to start out using silk tofu and hemp protein. And then we're going to do a remix on one of my favorites, the modern sloppy Joe. And that one, we're going to be using a soy-based tempeh product, which, if you're not familiar, it's tofu but whole grain that's been fermented, and it acts and works like meat, sort of umami and savory, and texturally it has a meat texture. And then the last one, but not least, we're going to do a spin on this no bake pumpkin cheesecake, and we're going to make a raspberry cheesecake out of silk tofu, and do as an homage to my stepmother. We used to, as kids, have for every holiday, we had like cheesecake tartlets with a vanilla wafer. So I did it in a tart format in a cupcake cake pan. So it has a smaller format. It's super cute. And then we're going to do a simple muddled raspberry sauce over the top. So let's get it.
All right. So just before we get started, I just wanted to share, as I'm sure some of you are wondering, about Max Love philosophies in terms of nutrition and in terms of healthy food. And the predominance of the research is showing us that the least processed that we can get in our food is the best way to go. So the one that is most based on whole foods and the one that is very plant forward is something that's going to meet all of our needs. There are different reasons why we might go to a ketogenic diet. And so that would be a diet that is predominantly, the majority of it is coming from fat, and how much of that coming from fat determines on goals that are important to it. But even the most optimally planned ketogenic diet is going to leave you deficient for certain nutrients unless those nutrients are, a lot of thought has been put into getting them. So in our cookbook, both Andrew and I have really strived to come up with something that is absolutely whole foods based, that absolutely brings you the highest quality of ingredients and the highest quality of nutrition that you can get into it. For example, a ketogenic diet might be deficient in vitamin D, or it might be deficient in magnesium. One thing we know is probably deficient in is a little bit of fiber. So just knowing the fact that you have the possibility of these things becoming deficient helps you to plan a diet that is really sufficient in them. We also know that if we went plant-based and we had to exclude a lot of the animal protein sources, there is a list of nutrients that are possibly deficient in those as well. Fiber not being one of them, because hopefully the plant-based diet has a lot of plants in it. But zinc is something that's really important to get, and protein is also something that's really important to really focus on because there's a lot of differences between animal and plant-based protein. So Andrew's going to start us off with this recipe, but the very last thing I wanted to mention here is that there's a huge body of evidence coming out about genetics and how genetics can further impact a person's success with a particular diet. For example, there are two different genetic variances in the way your body can process fat. And so if you are trying to do a ketogenic diet that is a huge majority of the diet coming from fat, and you have one of these genetic variances, you might need to focus on a different kind of fat or even take a nutrient supplement in order to get the right kind of fat that you need. And there's also different genetic variances like vitamin D, for example. There are vitamin D receptor variances that could further make it detrimental for you to do a vegetarian, vegan, plant-based diet where getting vitamin D is already hard. And so knowing your genetics is something that is also very beneficial to determine your success with these different diets. So I see a beautiful bag of berries on your desktop there. And whether you're plant-based, whether you're keto, berries are something often that you can do, and they're so packed with nutrition. So show us what you've got, Andrew.
So this is a product my favorite market is Sprouts Market. Um, and this is a product that Sprouts offers. I don't know if it's offered in other stores, called Wyman's. It's non-GMO verified. And they make these like mixes of frozen berries and things. This is specifically banana and berry, so it matches one of the recipes in the book. But they have ones that have like strawberries and kale and like tropical. And all it is IQF, individually quick frozen fruit, and a little bit of sorbic acid, which is a lemon juice, in order to keep the color. And it's super easy. And this recipe, you don't want breakfast to be difficult. And this one is super easy. I also like using tofu as a medium to do creamy based things. It's something that I learned with Moosewood. If you're familiar with Moosewood, the restaurant on the East Coast, they're basically like vegetarians playbook. They're like the premier vegetarian source starting in the 70s. And Moosewood does a lot of recipes that you use silk tofu for cream-based dressings and cream-based sauces. And I use silk tofu as sort of this go-to as a textural, it's a mouthfeel, and it gives you what a cream thing would do without the animal proteins. My family has some issues with dairy, so do I. And this is a way that I could do some things that and are, we're a little bit happier from a digestive stance. So this recipe is super simple, and you don't want to make it, challenging in the morning, especially when you're running out for your day. So this is these beautiful berries, some strawberries in there as well. I'm going to do 2 cups in there, just like that. Put this guy aside. This silk tofu was from Sprouts. This was actually shelf stable in the Asian aisle in the store. You just cut it open and it's ready to go. You could use one that's in the refrigerator section, certainly good. But this one is just beautiful. That's going to go right in there like that.
Something to be said about the tofu products that we're talking about here today. Soy has long been a huge area of debate in different researchers about whether it's beneficial for cancer or not. And that one is, are you showing us cinnamon?
Cinnamon. A
Cinnamon.
little bit of cinnamon in there just for flavor
All right.
and nutritional value.
Okay. Shall I wait until you've got that whirring so I can talk about the soy?
No, go for it. A
I
little
could
bit
do
of vanilla. We can do a little bit of vanilla extract in there, and then go for it. Tell me about what's going on.
Okay, so there is a lot of researchers that say the soy isoflavones, which are the part of the soy that make it healthy for people, are actually beneficial for cancer. And then there's a whole other body of research that shows that estrogen dependent type cancers don't benefit from having the additional parts that soy provide. And so the topic has thought to been put to bed several times, but still researchers are arguing about whether it's beneficial or not. So almost all large cancer centers, including the AICR, are saying that it's okay to do soy as long as it's not just a constant feed throughout the day. So they're saying 3 servings a day max is not considered to be detrimental. The thing that's also super important to know about soy is that soy is the most heavily sprayed ingredient that's grown on farms in the United States. So non-GMO is important. If you get organic, you're covering the non-GMO portion of that. And that way you're getting less spray on that as well. Pesticide spray, herbicide spray on that. So sprouted would be even better. And then as we go along today, I'm going to be telling you about several different types of protein. But one question I do have to ask you, Andrew, is that silk, you said silk for the mouthfeel, right? So if you were to buy extra firm or firm tofu, you're not going to get that same mouthfeel.
It's a fermented product, and it's fermented longer and it's drier. So it's a textural difference. So it goes from silk to extra firm.
Okay.
And then, you could put a firm or extra firm tofu in here, but you would probably have to add more milk or another liquid product in order to get it smooth. So
Okay.
this is just, it's super silky.
Okay.
It's like a custard. It's like a firm yogurt basically.
Okay. So you can see the breakfast smoothie recipes on page 38 and 39 in the cookbook. It's written with the idea of putting protein powder inside. So 1 scoop, which is usually about 2 tablespoons, serving size scoop or 30 grams of an animal-based protein is going to net you about 20 grams of protein. Just read this side of the package of whatever you're putting in there. If we were to use hemp based protein powder, which is one of the ones of the plant-based ones that we use in the recipe. Generally, you're going to double the bulk size of that protein powder. I have one here called Hemp or Navitas is the brand name on that one. And Hemp Yeah is another brand name. And generally, double the bulk size of the animal-based one is going to net you the same grams. So a quarter cup of my hemp-based protein powder from that Hemp Yeah brand is going to net you 20 grams of protein. Soy protein provides a little bit more per serving size than the hemp does. So there's a little bit more in the one that Andrew is making today. So depending on what your goals are, whether you have a child that needs more protein or whether you have a child that needs more calcium, or whether you have a child that has a dairy intolerance right now because of treatment, or maybe even started off with a dairy intolerance. These are all different ways that you can modify this recipe to meet your needs. Then, Andrew, you also had a milk that you were putting in here that had fortified calcium in it, right?
Yes, it's Ripple unsweetened. It's pea protein. It's one of my favorites. Ironically, I use a raw dairy from raw farms, and I use pea protein for coffee. So I'm like the opposite spectrum. I do like dairy that is completely raw, or I do an alternate dairy, and I like this one a lot. It has a neutral flavor. It's unsweetened. I'm diabetic, so it really helps with the amount of sugar, and it's pretty neutral flavor, so it can do a lot. So basically, what I'm going to do, I'm going to let this guy rip. First of all, I'm going to start our next recipe. We get a little avocado oil in this pan and get this guy cranking, so we're ready to go on the sloppy Joe. Let that guy go a little bit. So when we get this guy going, now that we're in between talks.
So this one also, Andrew brought up a
You can
good
start.
point.
I'm doing everything today in my quick Cuisinart food processor. This is a way of showing that you don't need a Vitamix or a fancy dancy blender. If you have a food processor, everything we're going to do today is using that. So it's sort of, alternate tools instead of using something that's like an expensive element of the kitchen. I like this one quite a bit. So we'll let that rip. And I'm just going to add milk in order to get it to the consistency that I want. I can pulse it to get rid of some of the strawberries.
So Andrew brought up a good point about the dairy as well. And for those that may be intolerant to the A1 type of casein protein, which comes from dairy, they might tolerate better the A2 type of dairy. And that's predominantly in goats and sheep, but also in certain cows. It's probably double as expensive, but you can find the A2 milk in the grocery stores with that label on it. It'll just say A2. Whatever alternative milk you're using, you really want to try to find one that is fortified with calcium, with vitamin D, and with riboflavin. Riboflavin is a B vitamin that's really important to get in your fortification because dairy has it naturally. If you do have to exclude that from your diet, you want to get a fortified product that has riboflavin in it. That is a gorgeous color, Andrew, and I like your straw too.
Yeah, I like to coordinate. It's all about the attention to detail.
So this one has bananas and berry in it, but if you needed to drop the carbs on that further, you can get the fruit version that he was talking about with the kale in it, as that would decrease the amount of carbohydrate as well. Beautiful. That's gorgeous. So in that recipe book on page 38 and 39, there's 4 different ones. And there is an article right before you hit that page that talks about all the different things that you can add to a breakfast smoothie, depending on what things you might be experiencing. So for example, if hydration is something that you needed with electrolytes, your base could be unsweetened coconut water. If calcium is something that you're lacking, you could do the milk or you could do a fortified product. If protein is something that you're lacking and your child finds it easier to drink the protein versus eating the protein, adding, more protein through all these different vehicles is a way to get more protein in there. And there's even more tips suggested in that article as well. All right,
All
Andrew,
right.
what's next?
Now on to the main course. So we did breakfast. Now we're doing a lunch or a dinner meal. I got the pan super hot. And today we're going to be doing my take on a modern sloppy joe, which is like vegetable heavy, less, corn syrup and refined sugars through ketchups and barbecue sauces. And we're doing a tempeh version. I'm really a big fan of tempeh. And I think this is, like Lexi was saying, this is a better version of soy because it's whole bean. It offers more fiber. It's in the same section in the grocery store. It's in the cold section next to your tofus. This is a light life tempeh. And it's basically just fermented soybeans. And this stuff, what you can do is you get your pan ripping hot, right? So you want it ripping hot, and then you want to get the stuff sort of charred, like you want to blacken in it, like to make it seem like ground beef, and it's going to crumble. Ah, there it goes. You just crumble these soybeans up, go into the pan.
Now the
So it comes like this. It breaks, and you just take it in your hand.
Something important to note with this type of protein, the difference in the 2 recipes is if you have a pound of any kind of animal ground beef, whether it's beef or turkey or lamb or pork or chicken even, there's 117 roughly grams of protein in a pound of animal-based meat. In a pound of tempeh, you're going to get about a third less. So it's 72 grams of protein is what Andrew and I figured out from those 2 packages that equal a pound. You are going to get more fiber though. So there's a little bit of a trade-off there. And so if you are a plant-based person and you're looking to healthy it up and get the protein, tempeh might be one option that you could use to get it. There's still going to be, like he was saying, if you do happen to char that tempeh product and blacken it, that is something that can be neutralized a little bit by all of the fruits and vegetables that you're going to be sticking in that pan as well. And so Andrew has a huge list in that recipe. You can see it on page 79. I make this recipe at least once a week. My family loves it, and so does some of the other ones. And I think we love it because it's so easy to make, and then the leftovers are really easy to eat as well. But you have it's so saucy, it's so flavorful, and Andrew's got a cool spin on it today as well. That's not going to be used on a bun. He's actually going to do something else with it.
So you want to get some color on this guy, and then the secret to it is whether you're doing a sloppy Joe, you're going to do it a chili soup, is you want to apply a little umami. If you're not familiar with umami, it's basically the Japanese word for delicious, and it's like it's all the different tastes, but you have sweet, salty, bitter, sour, bitter, and in the middle of your tongue is umami. So that's what's going on here. So I got a little soy sauce. You just want to apply a little soy sauce to it there. A little Worcestershire with the sour sauce.
If you have any problem with gluten, be sure that you can use the tamari if you didn't already know about that, or the coconut aminos. You can use that if you have a problem with gluten.
So you want to get this guy going, kind of caramelize it, get some color on it, make it into meat, basically. And then what I got going on over here, I added, I can't say it too because my stepdad doesn't like
Okay.
mushrooms, and I chops it super small. So I got mushrooms, I've got onions, I've got carrots, I got yellow and red bell peppers, and I got these beautiful, instead of tomato sauce in the cookbook, it's tomato season, and I have these beautiful San Marzano tomatoes. So I'm going to do, instead of sauce, I'm going to make it a la minute in the pan. The
And
first
that's
thing, oh,
such a good one, Andrew, to include those because they have vitamin D. If you buy the packages, they have, and that's one of the main ingredients that vegans or plant-based people can be deficient in. And that's a great place to get it. And often those soy products are also fortified with vitamin D, but I don't know if yours is or not. And so getting fortified mushrooms or that is a great place.
all right, so we're going to go everything into the pan. You don't, I mean, you could sweat the onions first, fine. You could do everything, just get it in the pan. Like at the end of the day, it's just you got the first thing going with the tempeh, and that's the most important part.
I'm looking at that recipe right now, and that is what I love so much about this recipe because it literally is dump. You just dump it all in there, and it's so quick. I can get this on the table in 25 minutes. It's awesome. And in this recipe itself on page 79, Andrew also has an Instapot version, so you can do it even quicker if you wanted to. So Andrew, I wondered how you were going to do that with the tomatoes being fresh. So just giving them a quick dice is the way to do it, huh?
Absolutely. These are San Marzanos. They're a paste tomato. They're classically what you would make sauce out of. So they have a different. They're not a good eater. They're not like, you don't want to pop this off the vine and eat it. It's not going to give you the same love as if you had like a cherry tomato or an heirloom for slicing. But they make delicious sauce. So they're going to break down. Really, what I'm doing now is working against the pot over there because we're starting to caramelize on the bottom of the pot, and I need a little bit more liquid. Right now, we don't have any liquid in there. I had a little bit more oil. I'm going to hit it with some Dijon mustard and some Primal Kitchen's barbecue sauce, but I want to get it down with some liquid so it has something to work with in the pot.
And if you'll remember from previous segments, Primal Kitchen brand is something that Andrew really likes to use a lot because they don't include extra sugar in there. So it really is all flavor from the ingredients and from the spices and the herbs and most other barbecue sauces or any kind of prepared sauces. You're going to see sadly that sugar is one of the first ingredients on that list, and Primal Kitchen really does not do that. So that's quite nice.
Wow.
So Andrew has shown us previously as well that you can buy those San Marzano tomatoes in a can as well. And so there's no harm in that can, but if you can use these fresh ingredients, absolutely, it's going to add more flavor. Are those from your garden, Andrew?
These are from my garden. Yeah, so it's that time of year, so you want to use what you can at the height of its season. So that's doing good. I got some fresh herbs. We're gonna hit some oregano and some thyme and some golden oregano. I want to do a little bit more Worcestershire in this guy, give a little bit more flavor. So far, I haven't added any salt and pepper. We can get there later. And then today's magic Primal Kitchen. Oh, Primal Kitchen Hawaiian barbecue sauce, and then their Dijon mustard as well to give it a little bit more acid.
I believe Primal Kitchen has 6 different flavors, so you could really you could go with the classic if you're doing this modern sloppy joe as is. That pineapple one I think is going to be an excellent application for the lettuce wrap that Andrew's doing today. And
I chose the Hawaiian one, but the Korean one would be really good as well because what we're doing is sort of a lettuce wrap, and I want to show you basically how PF Chang's cuts their lettuce in order to make it appropriate, like the right shape for the dish. So we're going a little sea salt there, a little black pepper.
so there are different, say for example, if you were soy adverse and you wanted to go with a different plant-based protein, there are so many cool new ones out on the market. I love what Andrew said about the tempeh being something that really lends itself to the mouthfeel of meat. But you may not have heard of a different product out there called Pumfu. That's one, it's kind of been an up and coming one out in the market for the last year or so, and it's made directly from pumpkin seeds. So it in a 2-ounce serving size, you can get just a net 1 gram of carbohydrate. You can get 5 grams of fiber out of that and 17 grams of protein. So that one, but it is quite heavy on the fat, which might still meet some of those keto patients that are trying to go plant-based. 28 grams of fat in just the 2-ounce serving size. So I don't know if you're going to get quite the same mouthfeel out of that Pumfu type product, but that's a good one. Another one is there is a mother-daughter team out of Oregon who sells under the brand name of Big Mountain Foods, and they've done a product where they've combined mushrooms with fava beans, and they've made several different flavors as well. So kind of like that idea of the Primal Kitchen utilizing different flavors to make different things. Big Mountain Foods has one that's made with the fava beans and the medicinal mushrooms like lion's mane and the chaga, and they also utilize some pea protein powders, and they also have a little bit of a texture in theirs, and they sell it in flavors. So a chorizo if you're doing a Mexican inspired flavor, but they have several different ones as well. If you look them up, they have 8 or so different flavors, so those are some options too. Anytime you're doing a plant-based versus an animal-based protein, you are going to get a little bit less protein from plant-based protein, anywhere up from 1/3 to a half, actually. And so I can't wait for you to show us this technique with this lettuce.
Probably everybody knows it, but anyway, so iceberg, standard iceberg, is what this calls for. Romaine will be really good as well. Butter lettuce. They make that like artisan pack of 4 small different like red lettuces and like a green gem. That would be nice too. But I mean, you can't go wrong with an iceberg. It's like with all the vegetables, it's in the dish, in the savory part of the dish. This is just a medium in order to get it to your face, really. So you got your whole iceberg. I peeled off the outer leaves. I'm going to smash it down on the cutting board that pushes that core out. Pull that guy out, set it for the compost. And you want to find the way the leaves are running. Go in half this way. And then this way. And then you want to pull out the inside sections. Cut the core out. Save that for the compost. And then the rest of it, turn it in. But then you have these outer leaves that are perfect medium for lettuce leaf cups.
Oh, that is a cool trick. That is a very cool trick. I was not aware of that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and like it works better if you rinse this under cold water. There's something about the cold water that will like separate the leaves a lot easier. I just like made a mess of the board, but
But you did it quickly, and that's what matters when we're getting food on the table for a hungry family.
exactly. I'm gonna take a couple of these. That one's a little brown. A couple of these green guys. These two, like that.
And your outcome with tempeh looks just like mine with ground turkey. So
Yeah, I mean it does the trick.
that's awesome. So there is another source of protein that we were talking about today, hemp seed protein. You can use it in a powder with that breakfast smoothie, but you can also use the whole hemp hearts. And whole hemp hearts is going to net you some pretty cool ingredients that aren't just protein or fiber, that they're going to net you omega-3s, which is an anti-inflammatory type of fat. And so, just like we were talking earlier about if you had genetic variances that were making it difficult for you to do a ton of fat on a ketogenic diet, such as one that messes with your body's ability to process omega 3s, it's called a FADS 1 or a FADS 2 genetic variance. Omega 3s coming from that hemp seed protein might be really beneficial for you. And so the whole hemp hearts can be used in some raw applications like salad dressing. So if you were trying to bump up the protein content in your foods, there's an excellent one that we've used with turmeric that has honey mustard in it and a little bit of that honey that is not honey, the Peore one, and then hemp hearts. And that leads to the thickness of the salad dressing. And if your child doesn't like salad, it also makes a great dip. So you could dip some carrots or some cucumbers or some celery in that. But whole hemp hearts can also be used in a smoothie. If you don't mind the texture, it does absorb a lot of water, so it can just make a thicker texture. And it can be used in all kinds of different no grain granola bars, of which Andrew has written a few recipes for that. I use it in a gluten-free bread that I make is just all with seeds and nuts, and then I just add more of the hemp seed to kind of give it that nice texture mouthfeel, as well as some more fiber, some more protein, and some more of those omega-3s.
I use a lot of hemp hearts, so I manage my other job. My other job, feeding other children, is I manage a nature-based elementary and preschool, and I we don't allow any packaged foods on campus. So I do a lot of granola bars. And I do a lot of like little power bites, and I use a lot of hemp hearts in those as well, and chia seeds, and I do like a streusel topping. So we do like a fruit cobbler, low sugar, and then the hemp hearts with a little bit of oatmeal and a little bit of butter. It's like really nice. So the hemp hearts have a good place. So there is our lovely tempeh lettuce wrap, guys. Fresh oregano flower from the garden, and that's dinner is served.
Beautiful. That's awesome. All right. And so the crowning achievement today.
Is cheesecake.
So we have turned from page 204, 205. We have a no-bake pumpkin cheesecake that Andrew has created for us, which is so easy and so delicious to do. And during the fall time, he's even created it in class where we've hollowed out a mini pumpkin and then served the chilled no-bake cheesecake inside the pumpkin. And for this one, he's going to do a summer take on it. And he's got this one particular superstar ingredient that has to be baked. And so he's going to tell us a little bit about that. So we're changing the recipe a little bit, but it's not a long bake. So it still is a quick recipe and an easy recipe compared to any other cheesecake you've probably ever heard of.
Yep. So this recipe, it's easy to bake. It's there's a no brainer. So you're gonna do another package of silk tofu. This one calls for, I think a normal package from the refrigerator is a 16-ounce portion. So I'm going to do 1.5 of these guys to make the amount for the recipe. Bang, those are in there.
And I've got a kid with a dairy allergy. So if I had a kid with cancer and I didn't want to do 2 soy servings in a day and I just wanted to do something else, would coconut milk work as well? The coconut milk or the coconut cream from the can versus the one from the box?
Absolutely, yeah, completely. So the secret ingredient for this is the recipe that I found calls for raw cashews. You soak it overnight, and then you have a high powered like a Vitamix or a Ninja or one of those other high powered blenders. But Sprouts, my favorite market, makes cashew butter. It's basically just ground, roasted, and unsalted cashews. So you're basically like, you know, dissecting bisecting the need for the high test blender by using this cashew butter. So you want to use a half a cup of this cashew butter. This is a third cup, so I'm going to do some math. And the recipe I have, it calls for lemon, zest, and juice. I have oranges that are on my tree right now. And so you're going to use the things that you have available to you. So I got these wonderful oranges. I'm going to do a little orange zest in there.
Something I think that's really important and helpful to know too is when you're zesting an orange or a lemon, getting that colored portion more versus the white pith on the bottom of it will net you a product that's a little less bitter, but provides such a huge amount of flavor
Yeah,
and
don't go
vitamin
too
C.
deep.
Don't go too deep on that. So,
Got that guy in there like that. And then I'm going to cut this guy, give it a juice, always with the juice side up, your hand like this, so all the seeds stay intact in the peel. All right, so that's one juiced orange. Yeah.
and then Andrew was telling me earlier today about this next one and why this one is so important.
Which one is that?
The one in your hand.
The allulose.
Oh, I thought you were gonna show me the other one that I was so excited about earlier. You were telling me. Oh,
Well,
wait.
okay, we're going to
I'll
do
be
a half
patient.
cup of allulose or your favorite alt sugar. So that's good.
So that allulose is going to provide a creamier texture, whereas if we were using the erythritol monk fruit variety, that would be more of a crystallization. The crystallization might work better for a cookie, but this allulose is gonna work better for a creamy or a cold application.
Little bit of vanilla extract, little bit of lemon extract, and I like these Watkins. They're organic, they're more natural. They actually make, you want food color, they make an organic food color that's made out of vegetables and fruits. That's the way to go. So a little bit of lemon extract as well. What's the other magic ingredient that I'm missing?
You were telling me earlier about how important the arrowroot starch is to this.
Oh, arrowroot. Yes,
And you were
thank you.
telling me why, because I thought, "Oh, that's so cool to know."
So a little bit of salt just to balance everything out. And then arrowroot powder. Arrowroot is a starch. It's like cornstarch. It works better. For instance, let's say you get Chinese food and they coat stuff in like cornstarch, and it's good the day when you get it. It's like glossy, and then when you put it in the refrigerator and then you try to eat it the next day, it's all gloopy. Arrowroot does better in refrigerated and freezer scenarios. So it's a starch. The recipe I had called for agar agar. I just upped the equal parts. It called for arrowroot and agar agar. I just bumped up the arrowroot to a quarter cup for this recipe. Is that a half cup? Oh, that's a half cup.
Agar agar is a seaweed product that's helps things rise in the vegan plant-based world, right?
Yes, and this basically the starch is going to help emulsify the dish. It's going to make it a custard consistency, and you need, in this case, you can't do it like you do the no bake, because the starch needs to join with the liquid, and it needs to be applied to heat so it actually sets properly. So we're basically making like a lemon citrus custard that we're going to use in replace of the cheesecake. And it's this. I did a sample recipe earlier, and it is phenomenal. So we're going to let that guy rip.
So these are the products that Andrew has chosen to replace the heavy cream and the cream cheese that was in the regular one that we have. And that's a great recipe. On page 204, you can see the no-bake recipe there for the pumpkin cheesecake. But by substituting the heavy cream with the soaked tofu and the cashew cream, and then providing this arrowroot starch, which is going to help give it that fluff that the cheesecakes normally have. And then some of these zests, which are going to change the flavors from like the cinnamony fall type of thing over into this more fruit-based raspberry type cheesecake, is a way to just modify the recipe for the season you're in, as well as modify it for plant-based or any of the dairy allergies that we've got out there. So we're not really traditionally using this cheesecake recipe so much for its protein value because it is a dessert. But by using the soaked tofu, you're going to get more protein out of it than you would for the heavy cream. Cashew nut really isn't going to provide a lot of protein. There's a whole spectrum of nuts. And so peanuts are actually the highest protein value of all the nuts. But as we go to the other end of the spectrum, like the cashews and then onto the macadamia nuts, those are more predominantly fat-based in them. But the whole spectrum of different nuts and seeds has different vitamins and trace minerals that are also really valuable to them as well. And so by using that cashew nut butter, he's getting that richness that you look for in a heavy cream based cheesecake.
So this base mixture is the exact one from the cookbook, except for instead of butter, I replaced the butter with an unfiltered coconut oil. And I had, made a bigger batch earlier. So this is sort of ready to go. So you want to take these little guys. I sprayed the cups with a little bit of avocado oil, just so it breaks away easily after when you're ready to eat. Probably don't need to do that, but couldn't hurt. So you want to get a little bit in there, and then press these guys down so it has a nice floor.
This is a delicious crust, and it's very similar to the key lime pie crust that we have in the recipe book as well. So that could be another item that could be used for summertime.
It's super warm. I mean, I love the pecans in there. I have ties to the South and it has this like Southern feel to it. It makes me really happy. So that's that. And then you just take like a little ice cream scoop bit here. You want to fill this up. You want to give room for the raspberry. So you want to leave like a 1/4 inch at the top.
I think that lemon zest is so valuable with anything that's rich because Andrew gave me a book once that was fat, acid, salt, and sweet. And whenever you've got something that is, hugely fat, like we were talking about with the cashew butter or the coconut oil and the pecans that are also in that crust, having some of that zest in there just does a beautiful job of just making everything pop and kind of freshen it a little bit.
Completely. And it works well with like the berries that we're going to use. And it cuts the fat from the pecans and from the almonds. All right, so I got a little bit more than I need because this calls for like a normal size pan. That's delicious. So get this guy a little pat. Make sure there's no air bubbles. You're going to put this guy into a 350-degree oven about 20 minutes. It's going to set really nicely. And then you're going to take it out, put it, let it cool, the room temperature, put it in the fridge for a couple hours, overnight, 2 days, and then you're ready to serve.
So this recipe, it is hefty on the fat. Oh, Andrew's got some movie magic for us, and I see
Movie
one
magic.
missing.
What's that?
I see one missing. Did you have a family visitor come and
You
take
got to
one?
make sure it tastes okay.
Oh, okay, all right.
All taste their food. That's how we know it's good. So
Got it.
for this, you could just do fresh berries on the top. You could do like a berry compote, but you don't need to do all that. You just want to you know what I'm gonna do. I got these beautiful raspberries. We're still in raspberry season. I got this little mortar and pestle. You could add some fake sugar, some sugar into it, sort of like, sort of render out some of the juices. But why? You don't need any extra sweet. So I'm just going to take this guy here. Give a little mash. Put more in there.
Now, Andrew,
This would be good for the kids. The kids would love doing this.
would you add lemon juice here?
You certainly, I should. I don't have another lemon, but you absolutely could. Lemon, orange, lime would be really good. We're going to do that. And we're going to take these guys out of here. I'm going to pull it out of the wrapper so you could see. Actually, I'll do it for all of them. Let's do more chef style.
So this makes just a beautiful plate with that gorgeous colored lemon.
Little bit more orange juice. Give that guy a stir.
Oh, beautiful.
Pop these guys out.
And we welcome questions from our audience. So I know this has been a lot of information today about plant-based, and you may have not really thought about plant-based before, but also the fact that there are nutrients within any diet that we should try to pay attention to. But we've tried to do that with the cookbook, and we've tried to give a wide variety. And with these cookbook clubs that we have every month, we're trying to show how flexible they can be, like we said before. So if you've got any questions at all, we'd love to hear them. You can put them in the chat box here in the middle of this, or feel free to mention them in the MaxLove Connect app as well, and tag either Andrew or I, and we can come back in and answer any questions you might have that way too. All right, Andrew, what's that herb?
It's a pineapple sage. So I don't know if I can show you what my garden looks like. Let me see if I can scroll it down that way.
The color is gorgeous.
Yeah, we're in my outdoor kitchen. So there's a full garden down underneath. So that's a pineapple sage, which is really interesting. You muddle it and it smells like pineapple. And one of my favorite herbs for especially for sweet dishes, a little lemon verbena. Just go right on there like that. And bam.
Oh, beautiful.
Dessert is served.
I would pay so much in a restaurant.
These are fantastic. I wish you could be here to experience it.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, everybody, so much for joining us today. That completes our 3 recipes, and we hope we've shared with you how flexible these different recipes can be. And we welcome your questions. We welcome your requests, because we want to be able to demonstrate things that you guys are looking for. So please reach out. Please let us know. Thanks so much for cooking with us today, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your summer.
Have a great one. I'm going to try to figure out. All right, stop recording and see. Oh, I was